Please be seated. Well, we're a little off our game this morning, aren't we? There's nothing any worse than changing the time of service. We're all kind of like either early or late. And so here we are, the whole lot of us. You know, biblical scholars agree that Mark relates the story that he does in today's gospel because Mark's community had been going through a rough patch. And so Mark invites his diverse and conflicted parishioners into Jesus' story in order to reframe how they think about their lives and their commitments and their identity and their vision of what constitutes authentic Christian community. We too have had our share of disagreements. A feasibility study by Evergreen Philanthropic Solutions revealed in July of 2023 that our congregation was deeply divided about what to do about the bell tower. And I came to you just a year ago, this weekend, as your interim. We've spent the past year getting to know one another, perhaps rebuilding some trust, and making an effort to revitalize ministry groups within our congregation. And amid all this, one vestry member has the audacity to ask at a spring vestry meeting, So, when are we going to talk about the elephant in the room? Which, of course, is a reference to the bell tower, which requires a sizable capital investment. For some, the process felt rushed, and to others, it didn't move fast enough. Remember, this goes back to at least 2019. Some felt well-informed, and others seemed in the dark or shut out of the conversation. Two plans rose to the top of several options of what to do about the tower, and these were considered, and various issues arose. One was to restore the tower as it was, and the other was to remove the tower and extend the roofline over the chapel, which sits below the tower, into the roofline of the church. And it was this second plan which church leaders pursued as being the most cost-effective and reasonable way of securing the envelope of this building. Shortly afterward, there became a clear division of those for and those against this plan. Once Evergreen determined that we were unable to raise the $1 million required, the project came to a halt. The rector met with the bishop and the vestry in August to tender her resignation. And all I can say is, that's a lot. You have been through a lot together. And we have expended a lot of emotional energy. I feel exhausted just relating this, the briefest of summaries to you. And now we've had a year to step back from all of those jumble of emotions to gain some equilibrium, and in the words of St. Benedict, to begin again. We begin again slowly. At our meeting after this service, we'll meet in the parish hall. We'll meet with the full knowledge of who we are and whose we are, children of God, worthy of love and respect, knowing that God will use us to change the world. And as I said, it has been an emotional roller coaster for many. Some have been carrying heavy burdens. Some have felt hurt. Others wish to assign blame. Others yet still nurture grudges. I know some of you have no idea about this dilemma, and this came full force to me this past week when a parishioner called and said, "So tell me, what is this bell tower about?" Imagine that. There are some among us who have not been part of this conversation. So maybe you are relatively new to this parish, or maybe you're just visiting us today. Well, let's just say life is hard, no matter how we frame it. We all have things we are dealing with, often heavy things. A professor of mine once said, just remember that at any one time, up to a third of your congregation or more are dealing with life and death issues. And so, in a sense, the tower feels a little lighter. We all carry regrets and hurts and anger and sorrow. We all fall short of the glory of God. And yet, God's grace is sufficient. God's grace gives us the wherewithal to begin again. And so maybe it seems appropriate to me, so I'm going to make you do it. We're all going to do it. I'm participating with you. But today is really a day of new beginnings, and to mark that, to start with ourselves in the form of confession. To say, I am sorry. To take responsibility for not loving God and neighbor fully. In a moment, I'm going to hand out some baskets. They're full of rocks that I collected on the beach. And I'm going to ask you to reach into that basket and take a rock. Choose one. Hold on to it as we offer a litany of confession following the prayers of the people. Think of the heavy things that you find yourselves carrying around spiritually. Of all of those big issues in your life that weigh you down or make you feel imprisoned. Think of those things that keep you from being the person that God intends you to be. At the conclusion of this confession, I invite you to come up to the altar. There'll be a bowl of water there, and drop your stone in the water. Let go. Let go of all that is heavy to you. And, by the way, don't rush it. Glance at the stones in the water and notice how suddenly a dull stone comes alive. The colors become alive and brilliant in that water. Because you see, baptism changes everything. Our story becomes part of Jesus' story, the Redeemer of the world, and of his reconciling love that calls forth our very best. And once everyone is back in their place, I'll invite you to stand for absolution and to receive Christ's peace. As Rob Voyle reminds us, we have been entrusted with a ministry of reconciliation, not a ministry of conflict management. And so let us begin. Let us begin this day. Let us begin again. And in the light of Jesus' admonition to his first century disciples, we, as his 21st century disciples, let's write a different ending to the scene portrayed in the gospel. We saw some people, Lord, who were filled with whatever, who were doing whatever, all in your name. They do not follow us. In fact, we really disagree with them. But we did not try to stop them. And they gave us a cup of cold water. And that was refreshing. We'll stand for the Nicene Creed. We believe in one God, the Father, the